It wasn't a premonition. That was too strong a word. But as I stood by the side of the road and watched the power line buffeted by the great, persistent gusts from the south, I had a sense, a distinct sense, that the line was going to snap. It was going to whip high above the wooden poles, then fall to the earth, surrounded by the sparks from the nearby transformer. There, it would electrify the ground. I was 17 that afternoon, and I saw it all in my mind. The black thunderclouds rising up above the fields behind the line, the corn tasseled, 2 Morgan horses looking wary as they walked in small circles in the fenced-in meadow at the edge of the road, and the sparks as they pinwheeled like fireflies above the pavement. In my imagination, the line would hit the oncoming blue Pathfinder, my mother's brand-new car, and the only vehicle within sight, electrocuting her. But it didn't. The automobile was beyond the line when it was ripped from the top of the pole by a particular whoosh of wind, first jerking high into the air, then curly-cueing to the ground almost gently amid its pyrotechnics. Garish, sparkling yellow and blue palm fronds. "Hi, sweetie," my mother said, unaware that the bang behind her was not thunder, but something considerably more ominous, something legitimately dangerous. "Oh my God, did you see that?" I cried out when I opened the passenger door. I didn't climb in, but leaned in instead. I realized as soon as the sentence had escaped my mouth that my mother had not seen it. She would have been staring behind her if she had. She would be astonished at how close she had come, perhaps, to being killed. And so I continued, my voice a little frantic. "The wind just took out that power line." I pointed, and my mother put the car into park, stepped on the emergency brake, and emerged from the driver's side of the vehicle. The 2 of us, a statuesque 43-year-old and her still adolescent daughter, stood on opposite sides of the car on the otherwise deserted 2-lane Vermont road for easily 10 seconds, neither speaking, as the line twitched once and then twice, like a dying snake. We both felt the first drops of rain at the same time, whipped into our faces as if sprayed by a fan, and it was my mother who spoke next. "Get in the car, Liana, now," she commanded, and I did just that. My mother accelerated fast, peeling out much the same way that my more idiotic male friends did in the weeks after they got their driver's licenses. But in this case, it made sense. That night, we would hear on the news from Vermont Public Radio that a pair of horses had been electrocuted when the sudden storm had blown in and taken down that power line a few miles from the village of Bartlett. The rain had spread the current like a wildfire across the wet grass, the charge executing the animals as they stood near the fence. The year was 1996, and I was weeks away from starting my senior year of high school. The afternoon the power line snapped, I'd been waiting at the end of my friend Heather Prescott's long driveway, a few miles from my family's own red Victorian in the village. My mother was picking me up on the way home from Middlebury. She was supposed to meet me at the Prescott's house. The house itself, not at the end of their 300-yard driveway. But I was so pleasantly stoned that I had walked out the front door and started following the clouds as the storm raced east across the Champlain Valley. The air was charged, and I just started to stroll. Before I knew it, I was at the road, watching the clouds in the sky and the horses in the field across the street. The horses were new, which was part of the attraction for me. The people who lived there were new. They'd just moved in the week before. Neither Heather nor I knew anything about the family, except the fact they had these 2 beautiful Morgan horses. In hindsight, I don't believe that I would have attached such supernatural significance to the premonition if I hadn't been baked. If Heather and I hadn't fired up the banana yellow bong with the very serious weed that Heather's older brother had brought back from Boston, I presume that I would have understood as the power line was bucking that what I was experiencing was something far more likely and far more common than a premonition. Dread. It was like watching a car swerving on an icy hill and knowing that it was going to slide into the banks the snowplows had created along the sides of the switchbacks. It was just common sense, that's all. And yet, I couldn't shake my belief that I had experienced something more dramatic than that. I was confident that even if my mother hadn't known that the road, once wet, was going to conduct the current and demanded that I get in the car, I would have felt this was more than common sense. And then, when we heard on the news that Heather's neighbors' horses had been electrocuted, I was particularly unnerved.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.